Akuto was a lonely boy without parents, fated to become the ruler of darkness. This made others treat him poorly and keep their distance until he proved himself against the toughest kids at school, determined to challenge the divine. On a stormy evening under a starless sky, a mysterious woman holding a child stands solemnly. She gazes upward, hoping for the child's safety, then leaves him at a church doorstep. Later, Akuto reaches the city by train, carrying a suitcase full of questionable magazines. As he climbs the stairs, a young woman dashes by, giving him a glimpse of the valley below her neck. Before he reaches the top, he sees an elderly woman struggling with her bags. Akuto hurries down to assist her, gathering her belongings and earning her thanks. He offers to help with her suitcase, but she declines, mistaking his intention and making him look suspicious. The young woman from earlier returns and mistakenly kicks him, thinking he's causing trouble. After clearing up the confusion, she introduces herself as Hattori Junko, the elderly lady's granddaughter. She's in town for the same reason as Akuto, to attend the Constant Magic Academy. They decide to travel together, discussing their aspirations. Akuto shares his dream of becoming a holy priest to spread kindness. Junko is moved by his goal, and they become friends, sealing their friendship as her family tradition dictates. Upon arriving at the academy, they hope to be classmates. During sorting, Akuto is shocked to learn he's destined to become a demon king. He requests a reevaluation, but the result is the same, causing panic. Later, a nurse tells him that his presence as a destined ruler of darkness will make his school life challenging, filled with isolation and hardship. She takes him to his class, where he's met with hostility. In frustration, he declares his disagreement with the sorting system, but his words are misinterpreted, drawing more disdain. During a class discussion, Junko is suggested as class representative, but another student suggests Akuto, causing tension. Akuto tries to resolve this by volunteering for chores, not knowing that this role has dangerous responsibilities. His attempts further anger Junko, leading to a duel challenge. When Akuto insists they are friends and should not fight, suspicions arise about his influence on her, escalating the situation. Junko attacks with full force, driven by frustration and misunderstanding. In a chaotic turn of events, Akuto accidentally unleashes a powerful energy wave that damages the classroom and embarrassingly reveals Junko's attire, worsening their conflict. Failing to reconcile with Junko, Akuto later teams up with Hiroshi, who admires him greatly. They plan a visit to the girls' dorm, with Hiroshi misinterpreting Akuto's intentions, while Akuto aims for peace. Attempting a discreet approach, Akuto climbs to Junko's window, only to inadvertently cause another uproar among the girls who mistake his intentions, sparking Junko's wrath as she becomes furiously aggressive. Amidst the chaos, Akuto encounters Kina Soga in the woods, who believes their meeting is destined. Ignoring Kina, Junko furiously attacks, but Kina defends Akuto, leading to a fierce duel between the two. The battle escalates until Akuto accidentally causes another explosion, knocking Junko unconscious. Kina mistakenly credits the explosion to her own burgeoning powers, launching into an excited speech about her awakening strength. Suddenly, another girl appears, introducing herself as Koron, an observer sent to monitor Akuto's actions. The situation grows more bizarre when a flashback reveals a young, red-haired girl in a church, comforted by a young boy resembling Akuto, who gives her a bird-shaped hairpin, soothing her tears. In the present, Koron, revealing her android nature, uses a peculiar device to heal an embarrassed Junko, who is dismayed at her undressed state. Koron explains her actions are mandated by medical protocols, despite her robotic demeanor hinting at her android identity. As the drama unfolds, Koron attempts to interrogate Akuto, lifting Kina in the process. Overhearing their discussion, Kina panics, fearing repercussions from the headmaster. In a bizarre twist, she strips, transforms into a hairpin, and escapes, leaving Akuto puzzled as he examines her clothes, trying to piece together the strange events and Kina's motives while holding her headband. Together, they went to see the headmaster and shared everything about the two mishaps Akuto was involved in. Koron spoke on Akuto's behalf, explaining that he never meant to cause any harm to Junko. The headmaster agreed that since Junko was now fine, there was no need for concern. He revealed to Akuto that he had arranged for Koron to watch over him because of his destiny as the future Demon King. After their conversation, Akuto stepped outside to find Tori waiting for him. She reassured him that the school staff only wanted what was best and wondered aloud how he managed such powerful actions. Akuto admitted that it was all accidental, triggered while he was distracted. He also expressed his frustration with the magic system, feeling that it didn't suit him well. Tori suggested that although Akuto might naturally attract magic, he struggled to manage it, causing unexpected outbursts. Tori then handed him a student handbook, telling him it would help him reach out to anyone at the academy whenever he needed. After such a draining day, Akuto went home to rest. Koron, programmed to follow his commands, stayed by his side. To get some space, he suggested she go to sleep. Complying, Koron began to unbutton her shirt and moved to the bed, which made Akuto uncomfortable. He insisted it wasn't good for him if she slept there. Despite a little back and forth where she teased him about his shortcomings, Koron finally settled to sleep in the closet instead. The next morning at school, Akuto told Hiroshi about his restless night. As they chatted, a poised and graceful girl named Fujiko approached them. She had learned about Akuto's situation from Koron and flirtatiously offered her help whenever he needed it. Pleased to have spoken to a girl, Akuto later found himself distracted in class, especially since Junko wasn't there and his peers whispered about his peculiar interests. After class, he excused himself to call Fujiko. Answering the phone, Fujiko seemed to be changing, and Akuto hastily sought her advice about the ongoing issues with Junko. She suggested they meet alone in a secluded forest behind the mountains to discuss further. When he told Koron about the meeting, their peers overheard and teased Akuto, thinking he was planning another mishap. Ignoring the jokes, they reached the base of the mountain. As they climbed, Akuto looked for a chance to find Koron's tail, believing it might help in controlling her actions. Despite his efforts to discreetly find it, Koron caught him and chided him again. Just as they were trying to address this awkward situation, they were suddenly attacked by a large, mana-infused dog. Koron attempted to defend them with her weapon, but was unsuccessful, adding to the day's complications. Akuto swiftly moves her to safety and decides to face the threatening creature himself. He recalls a useful tip from Koron about draining magic to neutralize threats, and he successfully applies this to the creature, restoring its harmless nature. Impressed by his bravery, Koron sees Akuto in a new light, contrary to her initial judgment of him. As they regroup, they unexpectedly come across Kina, who seems startled by their presence and quickly disappears. Koron explains that while Kina can conceal her magic, she remains visible through her attire and fragrance. When Koron bends down to retrieve her bag, Akuto jokingly takes a snack from it and playfully tugs on her tail just as Fujiko arrives. Fujiko promises to facilitate a conversation with Junko and suggests Akuto join the disciplinary committee if he wishes to contribute positively to the community. She hands him 2 magical items designed to aid in understanding and resolving conflicts. After Fujiko departs, Akuto attempts to re-engage with Koron, but is misunderstood in a humorous mix-up. Their attempt to clarify is interrupted by the return of the small creature, now chasing after a familiar bird-shaped hairpin that reminds Akuto of Kina. In the confusion, Kina accidentally falls onto Akuto, leading to a misunderstanding by Koron about the situation. Koron mistakenly believes Akuto has acted inappropriately and starts to scold him. Kina intervenes, promising to explain everything if Akuto agrees to a future request. Under pressure, Akuto agrees, and Kina clarifies the misunderstanding, clearing Akuto's name. Elsewhere, Junko is misled by Fujiko into agreeing to meet with Akuto. After their conversation, Fujiko reveals her strategic maneuvers and personal ambitions, reflecting on her past burdens and the legacy she carries. Meanwhile, Akuto and Hiroshi discuss their magical strengths and school secrets while relaxing. Their discussion touches on the various underground activities at school and the roles they each play in maintaining order. This casual chat is interrupted by Koron, who playfully joins in, adding a light moment to their serious topics. Akuto then receives a call from Fujiko confirming his upcoming important meeting. He proceeds to the student council room, where he learns about the challenges of leading the disciplinary committee. Despite some reservations, Akuto decides to accept the role, stepping confidently into his new responsibilities as the announcement is made across the school. Returning to Akuto in the classroom, he's deep in thought about how the whole school misinterprets him as a villain. Determined to change this perception, he heads home to strategize. There, he plans to disconnect Koron temporarily before his important meeting with Junko, to prevent any issues regarding his secretive talks with Fujiko. Attempting to deactivate Koron by reaching for her tail, he's unexpectedly caught by Kina. To deflect from his actions, he weaves a quick excuse as Kina rambles about her theories, which Koron seems to entertain. Akuto manages to dismiss Kina by mentioning his need to study. Seizing another moment, Koron playfully suggests he might enjoy the snacks she prepared, known as rice cakes in their local dialect. Akuto decides to go along, seeing it as a chance to finally turn her off. With Koron deactivated, he feels prepared for the upcoming meeting and carries with him the love pellets Fujiko gave him as a backup plan. The meeting location is an underground part of the school that resembles a military barracks. Upon entering, Akuto faces an ambush by a group led by a pink-haired antagonist and his followers. They strike Akuto, but he taps into his mana, defends himself, and then subdues the group one by one, even intimidating their leader. However, as he's handling the situation, Junko arrives and misconstrues his actions as malicious rather than defensive. She believes he's misusing his role on the disciplinary committee to harm others for his enjoyment. Knowing Junko won't listen in her current state, Akuto reaches for the pellets, only to find the gun empty. Junko uses this moment to throw a smoke bomb, warning Akuto she'll rally others against him. Unbeknownst to them, Fujiko observes the entire scene through a magical device, puzzled why the pellets are missing. Meanwhile, an imagined conversation with her brother's preserved head reveals the sinister intended use of the pellets to enslave users. Back home, Akuto reactivates Koron and shares his regrets about the day's events. She sternly reminds him that he must resolve the chaos he's involved in. The faculty won't step in to mediate duels. This leaves Akuto to face the consequences alone. On the other side, Junko prepares for the impending showdown, determined to confront Akuto. She's unaware that Kina, still in her hairpin form, overhears her determined plans. The next day, the duel is set to begin, and Hiroshi offers to stand by Akuto's side, ready to face the challenge together. However, Akuto insists that Hiroshi stay out of harm's way, expressing that there's no need for him to risk his safety. As the hour-long challenge commences, Junko leads a large group of students, all seemingly eager to prove their loyalty. They launch a relentless assault on Akuto, bombarding him with various projectiles. Akuto uses his agility and strategic thinking to dodge and deflect the attacks, managing to hold his ground despite the overwhelming odds. His goal is clear: to endure the onslaught for 1 full hour to claim victory and hopefully change the school's perception of him. As the clock ticks down, Akuto's resilience and determination shine, demonstrating not only his strength, but also his commitment to proving his true intentions and character to everyone. Akuto attempts to escape, but his efforts are thwarted by the united front of the students. Cornered, Junko confronts him, accusing him of wrongdoing. The tension escalates, and they prepare for a final, decisive battle as Junko refuses to listen to any of Akuto's explanations. However, just as the situation reaches its peak, Kina intervenes, revealing Akuto's true character and intentions to everyone. Her words sway some of the students, causing confusion and leading them to speculate about Junko and Akuto's relationship. Amidst this chaos, as the students turn against both Junko and Akuto, they find themselves forced to unite against their attackers. In the nick of time, Koron uses her powerful cannon to launch a special projectile that diffuses the situation by fostering camaraderie among the students. It's revealed that Kina had removed the contentious pellets from Akuto's gun and diluted them into rice, which Koron then distributed, effectively pacifying the crowd. Back at home, Koron examines the substance and discovers that the pellets were enchanted with a spell that binds people in absolute loyalty to a single individual. Kina downplays the severity of the enchantment, suggesting it was harmless. The day winds down for Akuto and Koron. Under the lingering effects of the pellets, students begin to crowd around Akuto, drawn by the unintended influence of the magic. A figure watches from a distance, amused by how Fujiko's scheme has ironically turned against her. A brief flashback provides insight into Fujiko's past, showing her brother's failed attempt to infiltrate a secretive facility, captured by an enigmatic figure. Life gradually returns to normal for Akuto, now known as the Demon King. Fujiko continues to shadow him, determined to bring him under her control, but she eventually departs, still vowing to achieve her goal. During a magic class held outdoors, Hiroshi comments on Kina's absence, noting her struggles with magic. As the teacher instructs everyone to pair up, Junko, despite her previous cold demeanor, chooses to partner with Akuto, warning him to maintain decorum. Their exercise involves passing a magic ball between them, but when Akuto throws it, the ball unexpectedly enlarges and wreaks havoc, creating chaos and leaving a significant mark on the landscape. Concerned by his inability to control his powers, Akuto seeks guidance from his teacher, who advises him to train in a specialized chamber designed to strengthen mental discipline, hinting at the challenges he must overcome to harness his formidable magical abilities. Hiroshi voices his concerns about the chamber's reputation for changing students profoundly, but the teacher quickly silences him. Back at home, as Akuto packs for his training, Koron announces she will accompany him as his observer. Akuto points out that she hasn't been very focused since her arrival, and they both gear up for the intense sessions ahead in the mental self-discipline chamber. Meanwhile, Fujiko, with a grave expression, confides in the preserved head of her brother. She reveals her plan to seize control over Akuto during his time in the chamber. Her thoughts drift to her brother's tragic death, rumored to have occurred while exploring a forbidden part of the school. Upon arriving at the chamber, which appears to be a simple isolation room, Akuto steps inside to begin his meditation. Koron follows, positioning herself close to him in an attempt to assist in his training. Unexpectedly, Kina also appears inside the chamber, adding to the chaos. Outside the chamber, Fujiko prepares to administer a potent drug to enslave Akuto. However, her plans are momentarily distracted when Akuto and the others discover a treasure map hidden within the chamber walls. Ignoring the map, Akuto focuses on his meditation, while Kina disrupts the peace, claiming she needs to leave the room urgently. Mistaking the noise for signs of distress, Fujiko decides to abandon her initial plan and intervenes by opening the chamber, mistakenly believing that her presence alone might resolve the situation. She notices the treasure map in Akuto's possession and takes it, convinced it's written in her brother's handwriting, though he denies any knowledge of it. Later, Fujiko encounters the green-haired girl who had been observing her, raising suspicions about her intentions. When Fujiko learns that the map is now publicly displayed and subsequently stolen, she blames Akuto, convinced he is behind the theft. Their confrontation is interrupted by Kina, who has been distributing copies of the map around the school, encouraging a whimsical pirate adventure among the students. Back in class, Akuto reflects on the absence of his friends, all preoccupied or affected by recent events. The situation escalates when several students return injured from their own treasure hunts, inspired by the map. Seeking to address the unfolding chaos, Akuto heads to the student council room to meet with President Shiraishi for guidance on how to handle the school-wide frenzy triggered by the map. Shiraishi warns Akuto that as the head of the disciplinary committee, he needs to step forward and address the treasure hunt frenzy by declaring it off limits. So, they proceed to the auditorium where Akuto announces the ban, but this decision turns the crowd against him, as they believe he's colluding with Kina, who distributed the maps. Amidst the turmoil, the green-haired girl Aiko confronts Akuto with her legs around his face, challenging him to verify the map's authenticity himself, arguing it's too risky for others. The crowd supports her stance, pushing Akuto into a corner where he feels compelled to lead the investigation to clear any suspicions about the map being a trap. With Shireishi's good wishes, Akuto prepares for the expedition. As he is about to set off, Aiko declares she will join him, introducing herself properly and setting the stage for their joint adventure. Along the way, Hiroshi's antics raise Aiko's suspicions, but before tensions rise, they reach the first landmark indicated on the map, a labyrinth containing historical clues about Yamato Boichiro. Inside, they are greeted by unsettling sights of scattered remains, leading to light-hearted banter with Aiko, who teases Akuto for his timidity. Suddenly, they are attacked by a cyclone-like entity. Aiko's attempt to confront it goes awry, leading to an embarrassing situation, and she calls for Akuto's help. After he dispatches the threat, they accidentally discover Boichiro's grave. Meanwhile, Junko, suspecting something is amiss with Akuto's sudden departure, breaks into his room. Upon learning he's with Aiko, she rushes to warn him of potential dangers. Back at the labyrinth, Akuto uncovers a toy that plays a significant audio recording from Fujiko's brother, hinting at a mysterious past event. Outside the chamber, Fujiko monitors everything, frustrated by her brother's indifferent responses to her queries about the toy. Suddenly, Kina appears, inadvertently flaunting herself and pushing Fujiko to pursue Akuto herself, driven by mixed motives. Junko, in her haste to find Akuto, falls into a trap but manages to continue her pursuit. At the same time, Akuto and the group locate a knight's room as per the toy's instructions. As they investigate, one of the armors animates and attacks, particularly targeting Hiroshi for his irritating demeanor. The group manages to subdue the knight, with Akuto soothing Hiroshi's insecurities. Their exploration leads them to a cave with a hidden hot spring, believed to be a gateway to the next clue. Akuto bravely ventures through the water, followed closely by Aiko, who takes the opportunity to get close to him. Meanwhile, Junko, seeking relaxation after her own ordeal, unknowingly bathes nearby. As Aiko confides in Akuto about the treasure's legacy, Junko overhears and intervenes, accusing Aiko of manipulation. A confrontation ensues, abruptly interrupted by a wolf attack from a nearby shrine. Akuto protects Junko, further complicating the dynamics among them. The group, now including Fujiko and Kina, explores the shrine and discovers a key. This key activates a summoning circle, transporting everyone to a bizarre game orchestrated by the student council, with Shiraishi offering a trivial reward. Disinterested Akuto and the others pursue deeper mysteries, leading Fujiko to a confrontation with a summoned dragon seeking proof of her worthiness. In a dramatic turn, memories reveal that Fujiko's brother was manipulated into oblivion, enhancing her resolve. As the battle with the dragon intensifies, Akuto intervenes, determined to rescue Fujiko. Despite Shiraishi's attempts to stop him, fearing the fulfillment of a prophecy, Akuto's heroic efforts culminate in the dragon acknowledging him as the rightful demon king, suggesting a destiny intertwined with his newfound title and the legacy he must now embrace. In the aftermath of his victory over the dragon, Fujiko pledges her allegiance to Akuto, deciding to support him as a black mage. In celebration, Shiraishi gives Akuto a congratulatory kiss, and they take a memorable photo together, marking the victory. Meanwhile, Koron is updating her superiors on Akuto's progress, and they express curiosity about his relationships, suggesting that Koron might need to try a different approach to get closer to him. Akuto is enjoying a peaceful day at the beach, but his relaxation is interrupted when Kina playfully tries to flirt with him. He gently tells her that he's not interested, finding her approach too immature. As this unfolds, Koron joins them, offering to help Akuto with sunscreen. Trying to maintain a respectful distance, Akuto kindly declines her help, focusing instead on enjoying the simple pleasures of the beach day. Feeling somewhat isolated due to his past experiences, Akuto reflects on his struggles with forming meaningful relationships. Koron sees this as an opportunity to show her support, suggesting that they could use this time to strengthen their friendship. However, her methods are a bit overzealous, leading to awkward situations that Akuto navigates with patience and integrity. Seeking solace, Akuto visits Peterhausen's place, hoping for a quieter environment. To his surprise, Kina is there as well, and they both find a moment of peace. However, Koron and Peterhausen lightly tease Akuto about his aversion to Koron's forwardness, highlighting the light-hearted nature of their friendships. Meanwhile, Akuto dreams of finding a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine affection, not the forced interactions of his current situation. Back at the beach, a misunderstanding arises when Junko misinterprets a playful situation between Akuto and Koron as something more scandalous. Akuto quickly clarifies the misunderstanding, and Junko, realizing her mistake, suggests they start calling each other by their first names, a sign of deepening trust and friendship. During a swim, Kina discovers a peculiar object in the sea and playfully shows it to Junko, leading to a humorous and slightly embarrassing moment. Akuto, ever the gentleman, helps Junko clean up, comforting her with kind words and reinforcing their budding friendship. However, their peaceful moment is disrupted by Koron's antics, prompting Akuto to firmly remind her to respect their boundaries. She leaves, reflecting on her actions and their impact on her friendships. Later, as Akuto and Kina explore the town, they encounter Hiroshi, who shares a local legend about a hero expected to save the town in times of crisis. This legend has weighed heavily on Hiroshi, shaping his view of himself and his destiny. An old man, driven by dark motives, stirs up trouble by awakening a threat from the lake, intending to frame Akuto and bring chaos to the village. In this moment of crisis, Hiroshi finds the courage to take action, embracing the role of the hero as he retrieves a magical sword from the lake, which grants him extraordinary powers. With newfound resolve, Hiroshi steps up to save his town, demonstrating his heroism. The story concludes with the community recognizing each individual's contributions, including Akuto's efforts and Hiroshi's bravery in overcoming the challenges they faced together. After their intense battle, the mysterious hero introduces himself as brave and promises to take responsibility for resolving the aftermath of the mess caused by the old man. He shares a quick but impactful exchange of punches with Akuto, a gesture of mutual respect. Recognizing Akuto's innocence, Brave mysteriously vanishes into thin air, leaving the scene as abruptly as he appeared. Hiroshi, who returns soon after, decides to add a bit of flair to his recount of the events by claiming that it was Brave who rescued him. Back at their residence, Koron gathers everyone to explain how she managed to negotiate her continued role as Akuto's observer by using the old man's rogue actions as leverage. When the conversation steers towards her earlier mission to seduce Akuto, she playfully assures the group that she intends to continue her mission, albeit in a light-hearted manner. She jokes about helping Akuto understand women better, and even suggests that he should consider marrying into a respectable family, casually mentioning Junko as a potential match. Junko, overhearing this, quickly excusing herself from the room in embarrassment. Meanwhile, in a distant location, the man hints at the uncertainty of the future and muses that it might soon be time to confront Akuto directly. Aiko, fueled by this revelation, hurries off to hatch new schemes. Under the tranquil shade of a tree, Akuto finds himself lost in thoughts of past conversations with Kina, particularly about a hairpin that held sentimental value. He reminisces about offering friendship if she still possesses the hairpin, a symbol of their bond. In the present, when he inquires about the hairpin, Kina awkwardly denies knowing anything about it, quickly changing the subject to spare them both from an uncomfortable discussion. As Akuto's day continues, Fujiko faces her own battle against a menacing tentacle monster, projecting her frustrations and imagining she is battling alongside Akuto. When the monster attempts a comeback, she decisively uses her magic to shred it apart, discovering a strange egg among the debris. Ever since Akuto's powers began to manifest, hinting at deeper, mystical forces at play. Back at the TV lounge, Akuto and Hiroshi watch a show glorifying Brave's heroics. Hiroshi can't help but express his admiration excessively, almost hero-worshipping Brave, while Akuto listens with mild amusement, unaware of the discussions about her perceived magical inadequacies. Hiroshi later confides in Akuto that Kina is often looked down upon because of her subpar magical abilities, which makes her a target for ridicule in a school where magical prowess dictates. Later, in the cafeteria, Kina misinterprets Akuto's intentions, thinking he's distancing himself to protect her from ridicule. Her reaction is dramatic and filled with misconceptions, leading her to flee the scene in a flurry of emotion. As the crowd gathers to celebrate Brave's heroism, he humbly states that it's merely his duty and departs after ensuring everyone is safe. The next day, Akuto reports the series of events to Shiraishi, who reassures him not to worry about the repercussions. As he leaves her office, he encounters Kina again. She promises to attend classes more regularly, and Akuto vows to protect her, ensuring she feels safe returning to school. Meanwhile, as Koron and Junko discuss Akuto's potential marriage, Koron reveals she has learned about Junko's family and has even sent a formal marriage proposal invitation to her father. Junko is caught off guard when her father agrees to meet Akuto. Flashing back, Akuto recalls a time in his youth when a nobleman visited his orphanage to donate generously. During the visit, Akuto expresses his skepticism about God, leading to a tense exchange with a devout nobleman. Despite the nobleman's irritation, Akuto resolves to never feel powerless or silenced again. In the present, Junko communicates telepathically with her father, expressing her concerns that Akuto's principles might not align with theirs. Her father, however, insists on making his own judgments, suggesting that Akuto could be persuaded to adapt. Feeling isolated and unsure, Junko struggles to find a way to broach the subject with Akuto. Koron, ever the instigator, encourages her to be bold and initiate the conversation. Together, they find Akuto in the cafeteria, and Junko awkwardly invites him to visit her hometown, leaving out the real reason behind the invitation. Hiroshi, overhearing the conversation, decides to join them on the trip. As Akuto leaves the school, he overhears a discussion between the school principal and the blonde government official responsible for Fujiko's brother's demise. The official warns of increased magical beast activity linked to irregular mana fluctuations, hinting that Akuto, as the so-called Demon King, might be inadvertently causing these disturbances. Akuto's frustration peaks during the conversation, leading him to challenge the speaker about his awareness of his responsibilities. Caught off guard by the question, Akuto is left momentarily speechless. The following day, as the group travels to Junko's hometown, on the train, Junko attempts to explain the true purpose of their meeting to Akuto, but struggles to find the right words. Misunderstanding her hesitation, Akuto impulsively promises to take responsibility for whatever it is, leaving Junko flustered and resigned to letting her father handle the explanations. Upon their arrival in Junko's hometown, the group is greeted by Yuko, Junko's younger sister, who also happens to be the girl Hiroshi, as Brave, had saved and received a kiss from. Yuko playfully teases Junko about her romantic interests, much to Junko's embarrassment. Once at their home, Junko's father subtly suggests marriage to Akuto. Oblivious to the implications, Akuto agrees, sparking premature celebrations among the family. Junko, filled with doubt about Akuto's understanding and her own feelings, retreats to the bath to ponder her next steps. Deciding to clarify the misunderstanding, Junko goes to Akuto's room and begins to undress, an act Akuto immediately misinterprets, urging her not to feel compelled. Junko explains that the meeting was meant to discuss their potential marriage, leading to another misunderstanding where Akuto assumes Junko doesn't actually love him. His response upsets Junko, causing her to flee in distress. This prompts hidden ninjas in the room, there to protect Junko, to attack Akuto for allegedly breaking her heart. A hectic chase ensues as Akuto tries to escape the overzealous protectors. During his escape, Akuto falls into a trap set by Aiko, who attempts to sway him to her side by boasting about her family's superiority and proposing an immediate workout together. Akuto bluntly refuses and learns from Aiko that she has sent assassins after Kina, frustrated by her behavior. Meanwhile, Kina, alone on her birthday, finds herself surrounded by assassins intent on eliminating her. Just as Akuto is about to overpower Aiko in their confrontation, Yuko intervenes, distraught over her sister's tears. Seizing the moment, Akuto tears through a tree, determined to rescue Kina. Koron, now revealed as a government agent, steps aside, moved by Akuto's resolve. On Kina's end, the situation looks dire until the assassins are unexpectedly dispatched by the mysterious blonde Yamato Boakairo, who reveals his connection to Kina through the hairpin he once gave her. As Akuto arrives, tearing through the atmosphere in his rage, Yamato discloses his grand plan to merge with Kina and challenge the gods themselves. A heated debate about the use and exploitation of Kina's identity follows, culminating in a fierce battle between Akuto and Yamato. Just as Akuto begins to falter, Fujiko arrives with an army of magical beasts, asserting her control and turning the tide in Akuto's favor. In the midst of this chaos, Yamato unveils his sword and prepares for a final showdown with Akuto. Meanwhile, Hiroshi, suited up as Brave, races to the scene, conflicted about Akuto's alignment with good or evil. Aiko, watching the unfolding drama, is suddenly confronted by her fatally wounded father, who implores her to continue his legacy before she ends his life to assume command herself. Back at Junko's, her family watches the tumultuous events unfold live on TV. Despite their historical animosity with Aiko's family, they agree on a temporary alliance to confront the greater threat. Junko's grandmother entrusts her with an ancestral sword, symbolizing her need to decide where her true loyalties lie, with her family's expectations or with Akuto, whom she may have deeper feelings for. As Akuto and Yamato continue their standoff, the power of Yamato's sword overwhelms Akuto, pushing him to the brink. In a desperate moment, Fujiko rescues him, and together they flee atop a magical beast, leaving the battlefield momentarily. Meanwhile, Aiko and Junko prepare their forces for the next phase of this epic conflict, signaling further challenges ahead for everyone involved. Aiko concocts a risky scheme involving Junko and her sister Yuko, persuading them to embark on a dangerous mission to retrieve an ancient blade, a family heirloom. Aiko's intentions for the blade are less than honorable, intending to use it for her own pleasure. Despite her reservations, Junko agrees to the plan, and she and Yuko set out, aware of the peril that awaits them. Meanwhile, Brave encounters Yuko and notices that she's adversely affected by the surrounding mana, developing a concerning condition around her neck. Disturbed by her suffering, Brave angrily blames Akuto for her distress. Back with Akuto, as Yamato nearly catches up to them, Fujiko leads them to seek refuge with Peterhausen. They arrive at the Dragon's Den, where they briefly encounter the principal, who buys them time by delaying Yamato. Inside, they also run into Shiraishi, who briefly holds their attention with her drawn-out discussions before they continue deeper into the den. Inside, they finally meet with Peterhausen. Inspired by the gravity of their situation, Peterhausen urges Akuto to unleash his full potential. Moved by his resolve, Fujiko is visibly excited to see Akuto in such a formidable state. Akuto then mounts Peterhausen, and together they soar through the skies. As Yamato launches an attack, the principal intervenes, halting his progress. Meanwhile, Junko attempts a stealth attack on Yamato, but her legendary sword remains sheathed, unable to be drawn. Akuto then swoops in on Peterhausen, gracefully lifting Junko and assuring her of her safety once the conflict concludes. He then sets her down from the dragon. Suddenly, Brave reappears, causing damage to Peterhausen. Impressed yet surprised by Brave's capabilities, Akuto engages him in a dramatic aerial duel, during which Akuto reveals his philosophical ambitions to dismantle the very concept of deity. Brave, however, struggles to grasp Akuto's motives and continues the battle on the ground. Below, Junko and Yuko engage in fierce combat against a horde of magic beasts, with Aiko overseeing the operation from her command post. She receives counsel from a mysterious man in glasses who not only strategizes the ongoing battle, but also dispatches an assassin to ensure Junko and Yuko do not survive, intending for Aiko to gain the upper hand eventually. As the battle reaches a critical point, Brave, on the verge of defeat, unveils a new model of his suit designed to resist and drain mana, turning the tides against Akuto. At this pivotal moment, a massive airship, deployed by the government, approaches the battlefield, threatening to obliterate everything in its path. But with Peterhausen's power, Akuto remains hopeful, ready to face whatever challenges come next, bolstered by the dragon's might. As Akuto and his dragon engage the airship in a fierce aerial battle, the principal reveals to Yamato that he was involved in defeating the previous Demon King and is aware of Yamato's ultimate ambition to ascend to that title himself. Their intense confrontation on the ground continues as Akuto ultimately gains the upper hand in the skies, claiming victory over the airship. However, the situation takes a dark turn when Aiko's advisor manipulates the crashing airship, directing it to collide with the Academy in a desperate attempt to take Akuto down with it. This maneuver not only endangers countless lives, but also worsens Akuto's reputation, casting him in a more villainous light. Despite the chaos, Brave is visibly concerned for Akuto's safety, while Kina inappropriately rambles about war and genocide, hinting at her lack of understanding of the gravity of the situation. Fujiko attempts to reason with her, but Kina's naive suggestion that destruction might lead to peace shows her disconnection from reality. In a twist, it is revealed that Yamato is actually from the future, driven by a tragic love for an older, blonde version of Kina who became crucial to the Demon King's power. Determined to change his fate, Yamato followed her through time, hoping to claim her for himself. As he shares his relentless pursuit and suffering with the principal, who is now too injured to continue fighting, Brave intervenes, attempting to shield the principal, but unable to effectively counter Yamato, who created Brave's suit. As Yamato and Brave tentatively align their goals, they retreat to a cave once inhabited by Peterhausen, plotting their next moves. Meanwhile, Junko continues to fend off magical beasts and Yuko struggles to survive amidst the chaos. Simultaneously, Shiraishi confronts Aiko's family, who are hunting for Akuto. In a bold move, she accuses Aiko of patricide to sow discord among Aiko's troops. After dealing with a few of Aiko's followers, Shiraishi finds herself surrounded, with Aiko's forces ready to retaliate. Elsewhere, Fujiko defends Kina against an old adversary, the Rubber Man, who is resilient to her attacks. As both Shiraishi and Fujiko face overwhelming odds, the rest of the student council arrives just in time, saving them from imminent danger. The vice president manages to momentarily stall the Rubber Man, giving the council members a chance to regroup and counterattack. As this intense battle unfolds, Yamato confronts Fujiko and Kina, dismissing Fujiko's abilities due to her emotional and physical traits, which he perceives as weaknesses. He then abducts Kina, believing that her identity is key to his plans. Despite Fujiko's attempt to stop him and seek vengeance for her brother's death, Yamato escapes with Kina, leaving Fujiko and the vice president to deal with the Rubber Man's renewed assault. In a desperate move, Fujiko decides to retreat to a laboratory, believing it may hold the key to gaining the upper hand. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Aiko manipulates the situation further by threatening to harm Yuko, unless Junko complies with her commands. Junko, however, defies Aiko, refusing to be a pawn in her schemes and aiming to protect Shiraishi and her sister from Aiko's manipulative tactics. Caught in a tough spot, Junko reluctantly steps in, hoping that Akuto is still alive to help turn things around. She tries to stop Shiraishi while her henchmen set a trap. During the chaos, Akiko's advisor, the puppeteer who caused trouble for Akuto before, shows up and starts attacking everyone. He turns against Aiko, claiming she killed her father and is part of Simi 08. This leads to Vasco and the student council escaping, and Shiraishi managing to overpower Junko. Just when Aiko tries to harm Yuko, Brave steps in, rescues her, and takes her away. Meanwhile, at the lab, Fujiko and the vice president deal with the persistent Rubber Man. Fujiko uses liquid nitrogen to freeze him, although part of him escapes. They decide to go back and help others above ground. Back with Shiraishi and the others, tensions rise. As Aiko slips away, the puppeteer suggests they stop fighting, but Shiraishi wants to battle it out. Fujiko arrives just in time to team up with Shiraishi, and together they defeat the puppeteer. They find out his main body is a doll, so he survives and hopes to avoid them in the future. From the wreckage of the airship, Akuto emerges, showing off his strength. After confirming Kina is missing and deciding to chase after Yamato Boakairo, Akuto gets encouragement from his friends and rides off on Peterhausen to end this mess once and for all. Aiko tells Junko to kill Akuto, but Junko refuses and stands up to her. Her family pressures her to follow orders, but Junko chooses to follow her heart instead. She pulls out a legendary sword, the Sorrow Blade, handed down in her family. She quickly defeats Aiko's men and confronts Aiko. Just before Junko can finish Aiko off, Koron steps in, saying Aiko needs to live to face justice. Junko watches Akuto leave, hoping he succeeds. But the trouble isn't over. Brave, really Hiroshi in disguise, comes to fight Akuto. They clash fiercely, and Hiroshi's attack seriously hurts Akuto. But Akuto heals himself and saves both of them from falling. He reveals Hiroshi's true identity to Yuko, who forgives him. Hiroshi asks Akuto to help Yuko with her reaction to magic beasts. Akuto dismisses the concern, saying everything will be fine once he completes his mission. He remains focused on his goal to challenge the divine order and change the world. Yamato is moving through a large building that controls the god, carrying Kina with him. As they walk, he explains his big plan to take over God's role and change everything. He's tried and failed many times before, both in the past and future. Kina, affected by another spirit, tells him it's pointless. She believes she must join with the Demon King as part of her destiny, but Yamato, in love with her, refuses to believe it and continues on, holding her hand. Suddenly, Kina snaps back to her own self and tries to escape from Yamato. Right then, Akuto shows up, making a dramatic entrance. He challenges Yamato to a fight, pulls out his sword and strikes, but he only hits a mirror image. Yamato tries to sneak up on Akuto, but Akuto turns around and sends him flying. Akuto declares he's there not to control God like Yamato, but to destroy it. A soldier watching them recognizes Akuto as the Demon King, a being meant to join with Kina and destroy humanity. Akuto knows this, but refuses to follow that path and vows to find another way. The girls around them suggest that everything so far has been part of God's plan. Yamato's attempt to merge with Kina, who holds a special identity, needed to be stopped, and Akuto did just that. While they're talking, the building's defense systems kick in, lifting the entire facility into the sky. Akuto calls his dragon, Peterhausen, for one last mission. They might both not survive, but Akuto is ready to risk everything. Kina decides to follow to make sure Akuto doesn't die alone. In midair, she removes her clothes to lighten the load, and they crash into the facility. Inside, they face a group of archers, but Peterhausen isn't bothered by their weak attacks and moves forward. Near the core, Peterhausen uses his wires to start absorbing God. The archers attack again, but Akuto releases a powerful blast that wipes them out. Just as they're about to win, God's final defense opens a hole in dimensions, trying to suck them in. Akuto realizes he might have to use all his power, which could kill him, to destroy God and end this. As he prepares for the end, Kina talks to Peterhausen about what will happen. Peterhausen promises to protect Akuto, but can't ensure his own safety. Then, everything explodes in a blinding light. Inside her mind, Kina meets another version of herself, who explains she's the reason everyone is after her. They decide they need to help Akuto go back to a normal life to make him happy. Outside, as the dust settles, everyone rushes to the crater left by the explosion to see if Akuto survived. Miraculously, he's okay. He finds out that Kina changed the memories of everyone in the world who knew he was the Demon King, except his friends. Now, Akuto can live as a normal high school student with lots of friends. But just when things seem settled, the school system declares him the Demon King again, starting another cycle of challenges and adventures for Akuto. Will he face bullying again? Can he find a peaceful life, or will he be caught up in more supernatural struggles? Stay tuned, and don't forget to support Akuto by liking and subscribing for more updates on his journey.